Uh-oh. Hold on. Jake Kushner. Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner. Isn't that, is that one of Trump's sons? Oh, man. And you know how they're going to spin that? The Justice Department is being weaponized. Now they're going after his son after, Hunter Biden's been found guilty. Even though Hunter Biden was found guilty by the same Justice Department, they're still weaponizing the Justice Department. Man, I swear, these goons, man. Because Firefox is my actual browser I'm trying to use here. Ooh, chat thing. Yeah, fine right there. Let's see. Jared Kushner. Senate Democrats are launching a new investigation into foreign payments made to Jared Kushner's investment firm. Senate Finance Committee, blah, 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 announced the probe on Wednesday, saying that the panel investigated the billions of dollars that Affinity Partners manages from foreign sources. Now, how problematic do you think it would be? You, you, what's crazy is that they're swearing to you up and down that Joe Biden had took money from Barista and then i.e. China, like of some weird like funneling scheme. So he's doing the bidding of China. And I could have promised you that with the assets and stuff that Donald Trump himself had, and then the stuff is obviously his sons are got their hands in, I'm pretty sure, especially if you're going to actively involve them in the presidency, it's one thing for you to say Joe Biden was getting this stuff as the vice president. I mean, at the end of the day, like the vice president can't really do anything outside of what the president really allows them to really do. Now, the president obviously chose the vice president as the ear to listen to and to like, take advice and adhere. But if I'm not mistaken, wasn't one of the famous things is that like God, what was it? It was something about it was either about the Afghan. It was either I think it was something to do like when they was finally about to hit Osama bin Laden, something was going wrong, and Biden was like, "No, don't do it." I might be getting the scenario mixed up, but the actual action is the same. Where Biden was like, "Don't do this," and Obama then just still decided to do it, and it turned out to work or whatever. Like that. That's the extent of your vice presidency powers. You know what I'm saying? So it's one thing. It's one thing to sit there and say that Joe Biden was taking money from, I guess, the Chinese through like a barista. Um, but then to sit there and turn a blind eye to like the obvious things that would be going on with like Trump's sons being funneled money from these investment from whoever in order to potentially peddle influence directly to the president himself, because the president, remember Trump was, everybody's, loved it apparently, but Trump was operating like a businessman, not as a president. And what's the things about business is all about, the money. It's all about the favors. So what is it that they're getting into? Kushner started Affinity in July 2021, less than 6 months after leaving the White House as a senior advisor to former President Trump. The firm quickly attracted big-time investors in the Middle East, and within weeks landed $2 billion from the Saudi Public Fund investment fund. Affinity continues to overwhelmingly derive the majority of its funds from the Saudi Arabian government. Is concerning several Middle Eastern governments using funds managed by Affinity as a means to pay tens of millions of dollars in fees every year to former President Trump's son-in-law. Hmm. Yeah. See, I knew it. See, so there's a lot of Middle Eastern money being funneled to his son. I'm curious what potentially would be the violation. Um, So he was smart. He left the White House advisory role and then started this company in order to get in order to get the Middle Eastern money. Now, if it comes out, now here's a crazy link that would be wild. Okay. I don't know the timeline, and this is not something I'm gonna like look into deep, but if it ever catches my interest later on, I might look into it deep. What would be crazy would be if like he had communications from the Saudis wanting to like do all his business stuff so that get because they're trying to get favors. His lawyers tell him you can't do that while you're actively in the White House role, so just leave and do this and create the business, and that way you can take it. He does it, and then there's correspondence where the Saudis want his dad's ear in something. You know what I'm saying? Because you see, in contrast to the Chinese and the barista stuff, right? This sounds like there's like a very clear, easy paper trail to find because all of this is direct. So it would be crazy if they find any correspondence of the Saudis interacting with Kushner in order to be able to gain favor or to be able to talk to their dad, i.e., the president. And what would be damning, like beyond damning, would be if like they were to find out something like Trump actually made a deal. What was one of the somethings? Wasn't it the what accord was it? I'm drawing a blank on the word. Was it Middle Eastern Accord? The Abraham Accords, right? Because wasn't that what two countries? It was, I mean, obviously Israel, but what wasn't it? Saudi Arabia? I think it was Saudi Arabia. Am I not crazy? Peace among the three Abrahamic religions and all humanity. Blah blah blah. Tolerance. Blah blah blah. Wow, they do all that, but they ain't even gonna say the Bahrain, Morocco. Oh, so okay, so there's a couple of them. Assuming this is correct. So Sudan, UAE, yeah. So it's Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Morocco. Okay. Well, it'd be crazy if and if they had like some involvement in this because what was interesting about the Abraham Accords, because this is about establishing peace with the Middle East and Israel, but didn't include the Palestinians. And who is supportive of the Palestinians? The Iranians. Who's not supportive of the Palestinians, from my understanding, I do believe it's Saudi Arabia at the very least. And it could be not so much as that they don't like the Palestinians. It could be a weird nexus because it's supported by Iran and they don't like Iran. Blah blah blah. Let me go and adjust my AC right quick, and I'm gonna grab a drink, and then yeah, we're gonna get started into these reactions. Disable this compressor here on the sauce. I think that's actually what it was. I'm fairly certain that's probably what it was. Let me see here.
Here with me now from Wisconsin, where she is campaigning for Donald Trump, is South Dakota Republican Governor Kristi Noem. Thank you so much for being here, Governor. I want to start with what we've heard a lot of from the former president since he was found guilty in his New York hush money trial, and that is repeatedly suggesting.
Bring that down. Yep, so it looks good to me. All right, now we can go ahead and we can just get back to what we're doing. I appreciate you, man, because when these struggle streams do be something else. All right, let me bring that down. I got plenty of charge on that. All right, so let's see context. Okay, so context is right, because all those videos of Trump. Look, let me tell y'all something. If y'all don't think if Trump gets back in that office, he ain't gonna flip ish upside down. Y'all boys are tripping.
For Donald Trump is South Dakota Republican Governor Kristi Noem.
Y'all boys
Thank you so
is
much for being
tripping.
here, Governor. I want to start with what we've heard a lot of from the former president.
This thing with like weaponizing the Justice Department. People are still making that claim even though Joe Biden's son has now been found guilty. Right, but he's still weaponizing the Justice Department. So remember that he's still weaponizing the Justice Department. He just found his son guilty of a federal crime, but he's weaponizing the Justice Department. against Trump and and whoever, because he has clear control over the Justice Department and what they decide to do and don't do, which is technically true because of the way the Constitution is written, but because traditionally they want the the justice system to be independent, the president typically does not direct or dictate what the Justice Department chooses to pursue or not to pursue. I.e., this is why the Justice Department has sat there and pursued his own son and found him guilty, and now they will be sentencing relatively soon. For Donald Trump's case, for Donald Trump, that wasn't even a federal crime. It was it was New York. But there are some federal charges getting ready to come up. There's a lot of media attention saying that they're going to vote for Trump. Right now, the margins are still really thin, and I don't know. And look, disclaimer: I'm a Republican. I'm actually a registered Republican. But right now, I'm currently leaning Biden just because like I have to pick the lesser two evils, and I know that this man is going to do, because after the second presidency, he ain't got ish to worry about, right? Very first thing he's going to do, he's going to pardon himself for the crimes. It don't matter if people have never done it before or not. He's the president. He don't have to worry about another re-election. He's going to pardon himself for the crimes. So we're going to have the very first person to ever like get rid of their own crime, so they can commit a crime and then just say, no, I didn't, and then pardon themselves. Then he's going to use justice. As you can see, all those statements, he's going to use Justice Department to go after everybody. Yeah. Oh yeah. See. Yeah. See. And so it's like this. Like one of the things that really like sold me on this, you got to think because like these goddamn goofy goobers sat there. If you remember the very first Republican debate, what was it? Was who'd you had? You had the Florida governor. It was the Florida governor and somebody else, where these goobers said they were gonna do military action on Mexico. Let me tell you something. As a matter of fact, there was just a recent article about how there's a Russian warship right now doing military exercises with Cuba. So we have this beautiful country where you have these oceans for borders, and we have only two nations that border us, Canada and Mexico, right? And then, I mean, if you want to count the little islands, I guess you can say Cuba or maybe Jamaica, maybe, whatever the Caribbean islands, right? But we ain't gonna go there, right? Mexico and Canada, right? And of all things, you want to conduct an actual military conflict with the one of two countries that we border, where we don't have to, we're not like the European countries and France and on all those where they got to worry about like actual real smuggling, like weapon smuggling, like drugs coming in from like wherever different ways, because like the Mexican border, right? If we would actually fund it and police it the right way, we can actually stop a lot of inflow. But instead, we're going to do a military action, which if I was China or Russia, right, I'd be coming to Mexico and be like, hey, look, they just did a military action. They just said F you to your sovereignty, right? They all talk about being good people, but don't actually believe that stuff. Tell you what, let's be, let's do like with Cuba, right? You enter a military pact with us, right? And we promise you it won't happen again, because you just let us get a little bit of land. We don't need much. We just need, a couple of like 100 miles, right? Of some barren land you got. Don't matter, as military, right? So it could be whatever barren land you don't make no use of, right? And let us build a military base there, right? Or a port of entry, whatever it is, depending on the location, where we may or may not have nuclear weapons. I promise you they won't attack you again, Mexico, right? This is the stuff that we've gotten down to. Yeah, DeSantis and I think it might have been Vivek. It was either Vivek or somebody else. Right? Bro, I was just I was just like, nah, like y'all boys are really tripping. Like if I had to choose between the two of like what's about to happen, because like, the US, as great as the US president is, he can't control everybody around the world. So that Hamas and Israel stuff, they ain't got shit to do with us. It's kind of crazy that, we did the Abraham Accords and didn't try to involve the Palestinians, just like with Afghanistan, where we did the what was it? I forgot what the hell the name of the deal was, but we did it with the Taliban and didn't involve the Afghanistan like government. And then you wonder why this stuff kind of ends up being the way it is. But you know, I'm gonna leave that be. But we're just gonna go ahead. Let's just look at some of this stuff here and see what's going on.
New York hush money trial, and that is repeatedly suggesting that he would prosecute his political opponents if he is elected. Listen to part of what he said.
It's a terrible precedent for our country. Does that mean the next president does it to them? That's really the question. And it's very possible that it's going to have to happen.
Yeah, it's the same thing like with like Ukraine. There is a lot of like monetary expense on our end going, but like to be realistic with you, like we're so shitty with like how we manage our own like our finances, where our tax dollars actually go. At least the with the exception, I think Israel's the only one where this would apply to. No. Ukraine is the one that this would initially had applied to, not Israel. Because I think Israel, we was definitely actually handing newly crafted munitions. The thing with Ukraine was that like that initial big, like the initial half at least of the aid that we was giving them, even though like we would publicly say it was X amount of dollars, right? But that's just because people don't understand like saying like 500 pounds of World War II munition that we don't use no more. Because I believe like the first like big bulk of like what we've given Ukraine so far was just old World War. It was like old munitions and stuff that we have. We can't use because it's old or it's not in our rotation of what we currently use. We can't really get rid of it because we don't want to spend the money to actually disassemble it or safely get rid of it or whatever. So we just store it and then guard it or whatever. But yeah, I think now at the point now we're starting to give Ukraine more of like the actual stuff where it is actual real monetary value and whatnot. So yeah, Ukraine, Israel, and I mean you could technically say that with kind of like just all of foreign aid really, but I don't know. I don't have a good answer to like how that's really supposed to be played out. Israel definitely doesn't necessarily need it. If I'm not mistaken, like their defense system and like their actual, I think we only supply like it's like 10 to 20% of like their overall like military capability or something like that. So it's like it's not even like they even really need it from us. Like it seems like they'd be pretty good without it. But they're our allies and stuff, and so they sit there and try to provide aid. But
To them,
based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them. Revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified.
Governor, is that the message you think Donald Trump should be focusing on in his campaign right now?
Well, his message has clearly been that his only vengeance will be America's success. He is not.
oh my fucking god, this is another thing too. I have a problem with from our party, bro. Why lie? What? There are some things you can say where the truth can be just as damning as the lie. Why sit there, come on national television, and sit there and say, "Oh, the vengeance, the only vengeance that he's talking about, that he has in his mind, because he ain't thinking nothing else, is going to be how successful America is." Like, come on, like, don't give me that nonsense. Like, when he gets up in there, we know it's gonna be like this. If there was ever a point in time where the Justice Department has a potential to make a case, because see, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that prosecution in general, right? They don't prosecute all cases. They don't have no justice system anywhere has the resource to prosecute every single crime that they come across or see. A lot of times they try to like kind of just like do whatever it is quickly as possible, right? Because they're not trying to saturate the court system, because then like your court dates, which is already crazy long, like a year, maybe 2 years or more, right? That should explode like crazy. A perfect example would be our asylum laws. Our asylum laws, where like they have to sit there and they have to process every single asylum law. That's why an illegal can come into the U.S., claim asylum, and then they get to disappear for like 2 to 3 years without nobody coming to look for them to potentially deport them or whatever, because their court date is going to be 2 to 3 years out. This is what happens when you get saturated with cases. So a lot of times what prosecution will do is they'll sit there and look like, is this something we really want to deal with? Like the shit with Trump. The thing is with Trump, they gave this man multiple chances. They gave him multiple chances to give back the documents, for example, right? After the first couple of times. After the first time, right? You already open yourself up to being prosecuted. It just takes one time. They gave this man multiple to give these goddamn documents back. And then it was like, you know what? Forget it. And then they sat there and, and now he's being prosecuted in the Florida case, which is currently stonewalled. So it's like, once he gets up in there, he going to be hey, look, any of these things come up that deal with any of these people. Oh yeah, that's their ass. That is their ass. I can see that. It's just crazy to me that you want to sit there and try to tiptoe around it, but she's not trying to say anything because she's not trying to get the ire of whoever, and then she's also not trying to hurt his chances, because if people knew with 100% certainty that when he goes up in there, if you was complaining about Joe Biden weaponizing the Justice Department, which he clearly isn't doing, you gonna really see something crazy when Trump get back up in there. But again, and even then, in the end, it might not even affect all of us regular people anyway. So a lot of people might not even care. If I'm being really honest, it's just only going to be the people that I guess had some beef with him. So
interested in going after political opponents. He is interested in going back to the White House and working for the American people and their families, bringing down inflation costs. And that's what I'm hearing overwhelmingly here in Wisconsin, is that this swing state is so important. And these people here, their number one issue right now is not that sham trial and not the verdict and the convictions and not what's going on as far as what a lot of people are talking about in the media. They care about what's happening to their families, how much grocery prices have gone up, how much better their lives were 4 years ago. So that's really their number one concern.
Yeah, I mean, it seems clear what you're hearing from voters, that is what their concern is. But it is what we heard from Donald Trump this week over and over in interview after interview, that he is considering going after his political opponents. So should he stop doing that, given what you just said you're hearing from voters?
What he said is that he's warned the American people, if we start weaponizing the judicial system like they did against him,
God, I don't even know if I might not even finish this.
What he's talking about when he's having those discussions is that be careful what you do, because that opens the door in the future to anybody doing it. And that's what he's trying to shut down. He wants people to trust our judicial system. He wants to make sure that we still have law and order in this country. If you look at conservative areas of this country, places where Republicans were in control, we have law and order. We have peace and stability. You go to Democrat states and cities, that's where you see destruction, and you see judicial systems and trials and corrupt judges that prosecute their political enemies. That's what New York was. In New York, that was definitely a rigged election, or a rigged judicial process against the president, politically motivated.
Well, he was found guilty based on a jury, 12 members of the 12 peers of his. The other thing I just want to mention, and I do want to move on, is that right now the Justice Department is prosecuting the president's son, President.
You're probably right. Well, yeah. And that's always the case, right? They what was it? Goddamn. I think when Obama was in office, right? Wasn't Fox News was on his ass, it seemed like, every day about it. So that's just typical with all media. You got to really try to look for the sources that try to I don't want to say just be in the middle, because nobody's ever perfectly in the middle, but that at least if you're gonna be on somebody's ass, actually try to be legitimate with it and have some real complaints. The very first thing they're just gonna probably go back to all of the past stuff, which is bro, it is what it is at that point. Let's actually just move forward and try to just be mindful of just whatever it is that happens going forward. That's the only thing that's going to really matter now at that point. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They are going to be, they're going to do nothing but CNN, what is it? CNN, MSN, all of them. When Trump got elected, and they were literally witch hunting conservatives. Jeez. Well, New York, what is it? New York, Texas, and maybe California. Well, no, I would compare California to Florida, but New York and Texas are the two places that you probably want to I stay away from, because they're of all the states, it seems like those two are the ones with the most extreme of things going on. Because if I'm not mistaken, let's see, Texas. I was just looking at an article not too long ago. As a matter of fact, aren't they? Isn't there gaining movement now on the whole sedation plan? Let's see, Texas. I think they're getting ready to. I think like there's a small group that's getting ready to actually get enough supporters in the Texas legislative body to perform some actual vote. Texas sedation. There is an article. Oh, I said sedation. Secession, isn't that? Isn't it secession? I literally was just reading it today. Yeah, see? So Texas secessionists win GOP backing for independence vote. Major step. This is true. Like I said, New York, New York is the first one. If I'm not mistaken, like they just cancel it or put it in pause because I know they're gonna implement it later. But they just paused New York just paused the congestion tax where like what is it like that area in Manhattan, like between Manhattan, New York City or whatever, where like I guess y'all be having like I've used to be in New York, so I'm a little fuzzy on it. But there was about to be a toll there where like any cars that want to go through it because it just be so many of y'all, they were gonna like toll the ish out of y'all over there. Yeah, they be doing New York be doing some really wild crazy stuff, and it makes me wonder how that city is still standing in terms of in terms of revenue and whatnot. But the fact that they were given that amount of money that they had to handle, I guess, the immigrant crisis that was coming up to New York, I guess the city itself does actually make quite a lot of money. And then there are like a lot of corporations and businesses in New York and I guess around New York that employs New York workers. It is crazy. Texas is on the flip side of that coin, I'm telling you. I don't hear too much craziness about like the laws per se, but some stuff. Oh yeah, I could yeah, I could imagine. Now to be fair, like COVID was brand new, world never seen it before, and New York, one of the most densely populated places anywhere, was the very first place to be hit. If I'm not mistaken, that was the very first place to be hit. So like I know some people that were like actual healthcare workers, and like that ish was something crazy. So I could see that. I bet of all states, like New York, like after that ish, New York was like New York was on it on that COVID stuff. More definitely, most likely in the extreme, but trying to do whatever they can to get that ish under control, because that shit was spreading like wildfire over there. And then the bodies, it was like body after body from the people that I knew that were actually working over there, throwing them bodies in the freezer trucks, and I was like, God, bro, that ish was crazy. And you know, and the crazy thing is, just remember, this is another thing too, bro. Just remember, COVID was just a cough or a sneeze that was supposed to be over by Easter. I ain't gonna bring up who was saying that and not taking it serious, but you know, it is what it is. It was a scam. It didn't exist. It was the vaccine in hospitals killing folks. Well, but the problem is that the vaccine came out way later. So like all those bodies that were dropping, they were dropping from something. Unless if you want to sit there and say like maybe there was like some other disease or something else happening. I just know that before the vaccine was available, the people that I knew that in New York that were working over there, it was quite a lot of bodies dropping. And granted, it was all people that were like mostly old or unhealthy, sure, but it was still like the uptick was crazy. The hard part was the saturation in the hospital system, because like COVID, if you want to be realistic, COVID is really close to the flu. So like it would be like how Tylenol, right? Tylenol is generally safe, but there are some people that can be killed about it. It was an effort to make the COVID marketable for vaccine companies. Don't know. There's just too much. There's just too much that was just happening just before that. I will say this though. I definitely made a little bit of money from it though, just because it was Moderna and Pfizer that were making it, and I just thought about it and I was like, they're making a vaccine from it. Let me grab some of their stocks. And sure enough, I had made the right call, because that shit like quadrupled after a couple of months once they made it past. I think like it was like phase 2 trials. So I would say, I would say maybe, yeah. That's the thing. Like, bro, I was making a killing from the stock market, bro. The what was it? The cruise lines. There was cruise lines that used to be like $90 to $100 per share, and then obviously COVID, right, tanked them down to as low as $7. So I sat there. I was like, shoot, man. Once the world gets back to normal, whenever that is, assuming nothing else happens, if I buy this stock for $7 and I buy a lot of it, eventually, yeah, Zoom, Amazon was making a killing. Who else? You had the tech companies. You had the tech companies, and if you bought them at their historical low, then it was all the ones that was affected. So you have your service industry, so hotels, well, not so much as hotels, but definitely the cruise lines. The airlines was another one, bro. That was a killer. Like, I made so much money off of American Airlines. That's when I first got into day trading. I don't do it much anymore, but oh my god, bro, it was definitely crazy. It was definitely crazy. Um, what else? What else was like just a killer? And Yeah, I mean, and really, that's all you can do. If you're those people that just sit there and just get affected and don't try to just make use of the situation, like, it just it is what it is. But okay, I thought I gotta schedule some. I mean, it is what it is. But like, you gotta make use of it and try to do it the legal way. Because I remember those people that like bought, like, they went around like the state or maybe a couple of states and bought up all the hand sanitizer and toilet paper and then tried to resell it, and the government was like, yeah, you crazy. And so they had to, like, basically, like, they already bought it, now they had to, like, give it all up. Yeah, don't can't scam, you can't do that, but you sure can, try to make good use of a situation, and COVID was definitely one of those, for sure. Let me I'm gonna give this video like a couple minutes. We're just gonna switch to something else. But before I forget, yeah, like these people that want to break Texas away from the United States, and you know what's funny too? I bet you these people will disappear if Trump wins. If Trump wins, right, you ain't gonna hear a peep from these people. But all federal interactions with Texas, besides the border, which is the only thing like they just really have a problem with, right? That's the only thing that'll change. I'm telling you. Oh my gosh, man. Let's see. So yeah, but this getting ready to be like some odd vote somewhere, a referendum. Should pass a bill in the next session requiring a referendum. That'll be that'll be crazy. I'll tell you something. That if they were to do this, this is the only thing I could actually see that would actually flip Texas blue. This would be the only thing I could actually see that flip Texas blue. Because I don't think people understand. It's just like Brexit. Like Great Britain didn't understand just like how much it would impact their nation when you pull out the European Union, because a lot of the things that you get because of the European Union, which was all the trade and everything, all of that stuff is you got to renegotiate, and it's not flawless anymore. And business people don't care about any of that. They just see you as just making a poor decision. So like this right here, where now, like, if you're a Texan, there's no longer, you no longer can't just drive or fly to whatever state, to visit family or whatever. You're going to need a passport. You know what I'm saying? If you're a business, now you're doing international business. Now you might be subject to tariffs, right? There might be some import fees that Texas might implement. Like, you got all these different things. Train stations, right? That's going to have to be completely severed, because you're going to have a checkpoint where you can't just have a train coming from like was whatever state, like Kansas, right? Kansas into Texas, because now you're traveling to a different country, right? You got to have passport and stuff. All, like, so much would change and break that it just wouldn't make it wouldn't make any sense. But and it would be the fastest way for the state to go blue. So we'll see how this eventually turns out. And then of course it would be the extreme step that it could definitely lead to an actual, and well, it would be an actual civil war. It would be a civil war that would actually be fought I can almost promise you probably only by Texas. I can't see any other state that would probably jump into their aid. They were talking all that big stuff about sending the National Guard if the federal government was to like interfere with Texas's ability to defend themselves. But if Texas was to actually separate from the U.S., none of them other states are going to come in and help them. I promise you it's not. And then the federal government is going to sit there and just like before, they're going to sit there and they're going to absorb it back. And that's just not fun for anybody. And of course, right, if they get too crazy with it, Texas, right, imagine if like they succeed and then China, because of the shit we do with Taiwan, China comes in and started trying to like give aid the Texas, right? Bro, I'm telling y'all, like, I don't understand why our side are creating all these unnecessary problems. It's just not necessary. Let's give this video just a few more minutes to see if there's anything good.
Prosecuting a House Democrat is prosecuting a Senate Democrat. So doesn't that fly in the face of the claim that the whole judicial system is weaponized against Republicans?
I don't think anybody believes the whole judicial system is. I think they see places in this country where it is. And New York was certainly one of those. And I don't know, Dana, if you read that letter from the judge in the New York City trial that came out that talked about the fact that some of these social media posts that came out before the decision and the verdicts even came out from that jury. So there may be a mistrial coming here because it was handled so poorly by this judge. And that's what I think that will be eye-opening to the American people, is they really, truly will have proof then that judge was corrupt. He should have recused himself according to the ethics and rules of New York. He should never have presided over that whole process. And President Trump should have never been in that situation.
And I just want to say that those details have not been confirmed. Obviously, the trial is over. So I think you're probably referring to an appeal. I want to move on to some of the politics that we're seeing in the 2024 race. Specifically, Donald Trump is actively starting to look for.
So just so we're clear, like the thing that she's talking about is sometime after the trial, when the trial's over, they found out that there was a social media post of somebody that was claiming to be related in some way or fashion to one of the jurors, and they said that the juror told them that Trump was found guilty or was going to be found guilty. I want to say it was that he was found guilty, the verdict, that he was told the verdict before they had actually officially did whatever that paperwork is or whatever to hand to the judge to actually give them the verdict. So it was like basically like, you know, they're in the room and like they decided they're all going to be guilty. Then he just go ahead and he texts his boy real quick and be like, yo, Trump is going to be found guilty, like that. I think that was what I read. As of right now, it's unclear who that person is. Like, they have a social media post. It takes, I'm trying to think if New York could reasonably subpoena. I don't even think they can. Because in order to subpoena, you gotta actually go through the process of like alleging a crime first. And it's unclear what the crime would be. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's Facebook if that was like the platform. I don't think Facebook would even honor a request for like that person's details. So unless they could figure out who exactly that person is, because I don't think they can go through the phone records. Yeah, law enforcement is not going to be able to go through the phone records of the jurors, because no crime is being alleged yet. So yeah, it's just going to be up in the air. And so with that being said, it's just going to remain a mystery. And you know, that could have been anybody. It could have been anybody that could have just said, shit, I was saying that Trump was going to be found guilty before the trial. That doesn't necessarily mean I had like interconnections. So I don't know. That was like a gray, not necessarily a gray area, but I'm not believing it too much. But it's always between that and then the juror instructions that they have a problem with, where they instructed the jurors that you can find Trump guilty of any of these crimes, but you all don't have to agree on which one it is specifically. And that's another complaint that they have. But the issue is just that the instructions, if you actually like go deep into the instructions, the problem is, right, I'm gonna try and phrase this as best as I can explain it. All right. The problem is that Trump did a bunch of misdemeanors, and in order to upgrade them to felonies, he had to did those misdemeanors in furtherance of a crime. So he had to did those misdemeanors with an intent to perform another separate crime. And so the thing is that the actual text of that requirement says that it needs to be the intent to commit a crime, right? It doesn't say that it all needs to be the exact same crime. It just needs to be intended to, to actually commit a crime. It's just like if I went to the bank and tried to rob them, but in doing so, right, before I could even get to the door, I got knocked out because somebody found my Facebook post saying that I'm about to go rob the bank. And so I got stopped before I even entered the door. That doesn't mean the federal government can't charge me for attempting to rob the bank because I didn't step foot in the door, right? I still intended to commit the crime, and that's what the text requirement is. And then the problem is that Trump's lawyers did not object to those instructions. He told them the instructions. He told them, do you all agree that this text, you know what I'm saying? Do you all agree that this text, that a unanimous agreement, which is typical, right? Because, in a regular, court of law or whatnot, right? The jury, if you're being charged with a crime by the federal government, it's up to the federal government to convince all, in this case, it was 12, right? Yeah, 12, right? All 12 people have to agree that you did the crime. If just one person says that they don't think you did the crime, that's it. It's done. It's a very high burden. And so one of the things with that with that statute was that everybody, all 12 people have to agree that you intended to commit the crime. It doesn't matter if some thought you was intending to fraud, some thought you was intending to assault, whatever it is, as long as they all agree that there was some kind of intent to do a crime, then the specific crime doesn't matter when it comes to the upgrade of the misdemeanors. So that's what it is. So it's like I mean, the thing is that and something like that's New York. That's unique to New York. You know what I'm saying? States don't have that. The federal government don't have that. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's just, I mean, it is what it is. It's just one of the things you just gotta you keep in mind is just that, some states, that's the beautiful thing about the United States, man. Every state has their own special blend of laws that can be applied to you at any given day. If I'm not mistaken, I think Virginia, you got states where it's illegal to have sex in any other position but the missionary. It is actually on the books, so it's illegal to do that. It's illegal to ride with a goat in the car or some other stuff where if the prosecutors really wanted to, so if you uploaded a porno and you lived in Virginia and you was doing something crazy, right? You could go to jail. I mean, they could prosecute you. You could go to jail. I mean, that's the nature of just how it is. So I mean, I don't know, I don't know what they want from that. I personally didn't like the New York case. I thought it was just kind of crazy. But at the end of the day, I mean, they created a massive mess because if Trump wins, if Trump wins, right? There's so many problems that's going to happen between New York and the federal government that is going to create absolute chaos. If I think the governor, honestly, I think this is my predictions for how the rest of this is going to work, because Trump hasn't been sentenced yet, right? If they were smart, because the governor can't do anything about it until the judge renders a sentence. That's what people don't understand. It's the governor isn't talking to the judge. The governor can't do anything until the judge do this, or this. He can't act on it in any way until the judge actually renders a sentence. And that's how it is just in any kind of, in most judicial systems throughout the US, right? So the judge is going to look at this. I'm scared that the first time offense, even though that would apply because it's a first time offense, it's not like Trump. I don't believe Trump has did any other crime before. They usually lenient on it, but the problem is Michael Cohen went to jail. It was his first time offense. I forgot what the hell he did, but I don't think it was non-violent as well, and his ass went to jail. I don't know what the judge is going to do with Trump being it's his first time offense. I would hope he takes in consideration that this man is running for president. This man used to be the president, and this man could potentially win the presidency. So you could maybe give him a probation probation. I think maybe probation would probably be the best. Maybe you could. I don't know if they do trigger clauses where like. I'm not even gonna get into that because that's just gonna get like too convoluted. Either probation or a massive fine. It should probably be a fine. Honestly, it's business records. At the end of the day, it is business records. And the argument could be made that the crime of it was technically a financial crime. So the financial crime was really because the jury did not agree on what the crime was that he was trying to do in falsifying the finances, that it should be seen as just a finance crime. And if you're going to look at the other thing to further another finance crime, really. And so with that being said, it should just be a fine so that he learns his lesson and that's it. If they give this man jail time, the federal government cannot overrule the state. So if they give this man jail time and this man somehow still wins the presidency, there's going to be a tremendous chaos if the New York governor does not then pardon Trump. But then it's going to make their state look crazy if they sit there and they pardon this man, I think. So I'm hoping the judge sees all of this and gives either a fine or some uniquely carved probation where maybe he can do a fine and a little bit of probation until like November or something. I don't know. But otherwise, I'm telling you, this is going to be a massive problem for us if this man gets sentenced with jail time. I don't know. But it's going to be probation. I'm predicting probation, fine, right? Which would be for the best of the nation. And then come in November, if he wins, all the other federal cases are going to go away because he technically doesn't have full control of the judicial system until January when he's actually like sworn back in. But they're going to pause those indefinitely. And then once he's in, he's going to like all those federal crimes, he's going to wipe those away. Georgia, on the other hand, now Georgia is the other one. Remember, states cannot overrule the federal government cannot overrule the states. I don't know what Georgia is going to do. If the case is not further along enough, he could then, as president, pressure Georgia, right? Because it's still Republican controlled. It should still be Republican controlled. He could actually then pressure them to find some way to just drop the case, which I can promise you they probably will end up doing. If that was to happen, it almost for sure that would happen. But as long as the Georgia case doesn't happen before the election, because I think that's his only real threat now, because the federal documents case, which I don't know if you read the indictments and stuff, but the federal documents case, right? That was his number one focus, because that one he was going to be found guilty. Those documents, right? The the video evidence, right? The black and white evidence that they had, there's just no way he's not going to be found guilty of that. So, but now, like, I think like some key thing isn't going to happen till October. So he's good. He ain't got to worry about the federal case no more. Now it's just going to be the sentencing and then the Georgia case. If the Georgia case doesn't happen by November, he's in the clear. So we'll see. We'll see what's happening. I didn't mean to rant on that, but I had to give each side of it because like people, not a lawyer, but I do like to read a lot. I do like to read a lot. So a lot of this stuff, because I always tell people that like if laws were written to where only lawyers can understand, then you'd essentially have like a lawless country, because a lot of times it's only when you're getting into like the uber like crazy specific stuff, like you don't need a lawyer to tell you that you can't murder somebody, that you can't go up and shoot somebody to kill them, right? But you might need a lawyer to argue if or not that was in self-defense, if things got a little crazy. If he yelled at you, maybe raised his fist, and then you shot him, right? That's where the lawyers come in. Lawyers come in clutch for those really gray areas. But you don't need a lawyer for like the easy simple stuff, because a lot of the stuff actually, like, like when you look at any of the stuff that's going on, it's hard to define like the actual statute that they usually are using to charge somebody of a crime. But once you find it and you actually read it, it's usually like pretty easy to understand, because what they have is this thing called elements, where they just said if these three things are found true, then you committed this crime, right? And then if they have exceptions, they say, and then these are the exceptions if this or this applies, right? Which some of it might be easy to understand, some of it might not be, and then that's when you're going to need a lawyer. So so that's always my take on it. But if you literally just read enough of the stuff, hell, really, you don't even need to read much of the stuff. You just need, if you could just actually find, like, if they say they New York's charging you for like second-degree murder, if you go and you pull up New York second-degray murder and you actually look at the text, it'll tell you, all right, somebody had to have died, right? The person that killed them had to have like did whatever to premeditate it, right? So he had that showed intent to do it, meaning like he had a gun. So like, for example, like he had a gun, right? And he drove up to like where he lived at, broke into his house, and then shot him, right? You can't, it's hard to argue self-defense, right, in a situation like that. But like, those are the things, right? Or it might say that, he had to kill him without intending to do so, but was negligent in his actions, and then the dude ended up dying. You was driving a vehicle, you was drunk, so you was negligent, and then like you wasn't paying attention, and you ran over a turtle that flipped your car and made you flip on like some homeless guy that was just on the corner, right? He's dead. You definitely killed him. You ain't intend to kill him, but like he's dead. So yeah, you about to get got. And that's what I'm saying. Like the text, like the stuff on the elements, they're usually really easy to understand. It's just when you're trying to argue your way out of it that's when you really need a lawyer for. All right. I think we're gonna give this like 30 more seconds here in this video. We're gonna go to the interview. There's an interview. There was an interview I saw, or that came up. I saw of like Piers. I don't know if you're familiar with Piers Morgan and Candace Owens. That I really want to look at and see how the hell that turned out, because I know she probably was like on some crazy stuff. That's my assumption. We'll see.
CNN is told that there are 7 potential Trump VP contenders receiving vetting materials so far. You're not on that list. Do you have any indication that you're still under consideration to be Donald Trump's running mate?
Is this only just VP stuff now?
Get online in minutes.
And then of course we got ads. And that was loud. Good Jesus.
President Trump over and over again. He needs to pick whoever helps him in his policies. So gets up and fights for the average everyday American. That makes me
okay. Yeah. So
on that list that I just showed, there were 6 men and one woman. Women, particularly suburban women, I don't need to tell you, could play a big role in who.
Okay. Yeah. She's gonna go into VP stuff. I'm not even interested anymore. Okay. Well, let me see if I can find this Candace Owens. All right. Awesome. Ooh. An hour and 20 minutes. If I did it at 2x the speed. That's a long time. They don't got clips. They don't have clips of. I guess. What's the topics? What's the topic? Mean tweets. Why did Candace Owens really lead the Daily Wire? Ben Shapiro and drew accusations of anti-Semitism. Israel, Palestine. Christians in the most persecuted world. Kanye West. The COVID vaccine. Conspiracy theories. Oh, they got Diddy. It's funny. He's going to talk about Diddy. That is crazy. Ukraine. I think Zelensky is a criminal. Of course. The West is failing. And then Taylor Swift is the most toxic feminist ever. Anybody got? Is there any Swifties? And Piers Morgan's, quite a lot of. Even some be construed as anti-Semitic. Okay, so there's a lot. There's a lot of actual people for Candace's side. That's interesting. Okay, well let's. Do I wanna? Yeah, sure.
Why did you leave the Daily Wire? A lot of attention has been focused on you constantly referencing Christ is King. To deliberately use that phrase was much of your characterization of me in some of those mean tweets, but that's fine. We can move on because there's a much more interesting story, I think, involving you, which has played out in the last few months, which everybody knows about. So let's just talk about that. Why did you leave the Daily Wire?
Well, unfortunately, I can't talk about the specific reasons that I left the Daily Wire, but what I can do is respond to whatever reasons were given to the public. And obviously, no sooner did we agree to leave than Andrew Klavan of the Daily Wire did an entire episode stating that the reasons that I was leaving was because I was anti-Semitic and I was engaging in a type of anti-Semitism that was hard to pin down. And that is why in my first episode of launching my independent podcast, I hit back pretty hard at him because I think it's pretty despicable, first and foremost, as a colleague who I had a great relationship with, to have engaged in that, knowing that I was not at liberty to say anything.
Oh yeah, I do remember. I don't know if you know her, big firebrand. She used to be with the Daily Wire. They parted ways, and my understanding is because she was getting a little bit too much for them when it came to her what they were saying, anti-Semitic behaviors or anti-Jew stuff. I mean, you know, it's so funny because people, you know, they'll complain so much about free speech, platforms shouldn't do this, platforms shouldn't that, but they don't even believe that themselves. Like these companies that are ran by these people are running rampant at unis. Yeah. Yeah, because you got all the protests and stuff, and the way they handling those protests is crazy. Like, I don't understand like how, especially for a private university, because you best believe if I pay tuition to that school and I'm trying to go and I ain't trying to deal with none of that ish, and then you got people standing in my way to get the education that I paid for, and the school ain't doing nothing about it. Oh no, something about to happen, right? I ain't saying, I'm not advocating for paws to be put on people, but I'm just saying, like, you basically robbing me of my money, and I ain't gonna have it, right? I think I remember seeing the one video of the guy that was trying to go through, but they kept blocking him. But I think they was only blocking one exit. So for me, I just be like, whatever, I'm just go the other way. But you best believe if that other place was blocked too, I'm gonna call the school and I'm gonna give them one chance. Hey, look, I paid tuition, I paid you for education, and you got these people here keeping me from doing it on your property. You either need to give me back my money, or you need to go ahead and you need to get these people to move, right? Because if neither one of those things is going to happen, then I don't know what's going to happen. I ain't going to say what's going to happen, but somebody going to have to give something. All right. And maybe that could be probably an easy lawsuit for the students against the university, right? Because then if they were cheated out of their tuition, it is. And that'd be a huge come up. Students should have their free speech too, instead of being called Hamas supporters. Yeah, no, they definitely should. But there's a way you have to go about it. Like, you cannot. Oh God, what was it? What was the specific thing about it? Like, the students, like, if all they were doing was like, if you just had a collection of them in like some grass area or whatever, protesting, like you would usually see a protest free speech stuff going. Excuse me, then that's perfectly fine, right? There's no issue with that. The problem then comes where, like, you start taking control of buildings, right? When you start commandeering buildings, when you start blocking entrances and exits and stuff like that, that's when now things start to become a little bit different, because that would be like, could you imagine if people was protesting police brutality, and so like every police department, they had people in front of the doors so that police couldn't come in to get their badge or whatever, like that'd get wrapped up real quick. You know what I'm saying? Now, if they were sitting there on the side of the sidewalk protesting, right, then won't nothing happen. I don't know why the universities handled it the way that they did, right? They could have easily, the students forced them into it. So, like, if they had to sit there and get them removed, it is what it is. You give them one warning. Yo, protest what you want, do what you want. If you block this entrance to this building, right, or you're going to get expelled. It is what it is. Like, and you ain't getting your tuition back. But you can't stop other students who paid their tuition to come into this building. So I don't know what to tell you. Go stand over there. You can stand by the entrance. You can stand close to the entrance, but you cannot block the entrance for other people to come in and out. period. And you damn sure can't take control of an entire building. That's kind of crazy. So I mean, that's what I think is where they kind of dropped the ball on that, because that's kind of crazy. Just crazy.
You know, I thought it was a very underhanded, disgusting tactic. And
so let's see what what do I think she's going. Well, I'm gonna save it. Let's just consider.
I responded in force.
I want to play you what Ben Shapiro told me when I asked him about this on Uncensored. One of the consequences of this war has been a lot of very high passions on both sides, a lot of angry disagreements. You and your company have been at the center of a very high-profile one at the moment with Candace Owens, who's now left Daily Wire. Was she fired, or did she leave of her own volition?
I'm not going to speak to this topic, Piers.
At all?
At all. The only thing I will say is what I've said all along with regard to Candace or with regard to any of our other hosts. I am not in hiring and firing position with the Daily Wire. I'm a co-founder of the Daily Wire. I'm a co-owner of the Daily Wire. I'm not actually in management. And as far as the free speech situation, what I will say is that no company has the obligation to literally pay anyone. The Daily Wire is a publisher. It is not a platform.
Do you agree with that, Candace?
Agree with which part?
Well, okay, any of it.
Well, I think that it's interesting, and I'd love to sit down with and debate Ben Shapiro on a number of topics, particularly cancel culture, because I know that he's made some comments in the past that he believes that publishers, platforms should allow people to have different ideas. And so those particular comments to me sound in contrast to what he has said in the past, but I can't speak on behalf of him.
See, and that's because nobody in those positions, right, that own platforms. I promise you this: if you go to Trump's what's it called? Is it Truth Social? If you go to his Truth Social platform, create an account or whatever, and then you start spreading like propaganda on how Joe Biden should be president and should win the next re-election, I promise you're going to get shut down. Like, or at the very least, if they have any type of monetization scheme going on that platform, I promise you're not going to get it. You know what I'm saying? Don't none of these people actually truly believe in free speech when it comes to the actual company platform or brand, right? At the end of the day, it's about the money. And so, like, with the Daily Wire, my understanding, for you know, especially with like the two big heads of the company being Jewish, like you're not gonna make it that far if you're doing anything that can be construed, whether it's reasonable or not. Anything that can be construed as anti-Jew, you're not gonna be on that platform. It's just unfortunate. It's just like with YouTube, right? If you do anything on YouTube that potentially hurts their image, you're not gonna be monetized. Like, free speech applies to the government, it doesn't apply to private companies. Like, and anybody that sits there and tell you how all these people should be free speech and whatnot, they don't actually that own like social media type-ish companies. So like PBD podcast, the Daily Wire, the Tim Pool's podcast, like all these like big giants. I honestly, like, even Joe Rogan I think does actually do a good job maybe playing like in the middle, but like none of these people truly believe in free speech, because the moment you come on their platform and say anything crazy that they don't agree with, you're not going to be there. That's just what it is. Like, I don't know why that's such a surprise to her, you know. And then the thing is, with Ben Shapiro, he's just going to say the same thing he just said. He's not in the hiring decision, so it doesn't. So, like, you know, whatever grievances you have, it ain't got nothing to do with him. That's just all he's going to say.
Obviously, I personally believe that media companies are healthier when you allow people to have different opinions and allow people to debate those opinions. Personally, I love to see a debate between two people, and so I can only tell you what my perspective is and can't really.
And the thing is, she's right? It's healthier when you get people that could debate, and you got, you know, whatever different varying views. And I agree with that. But the problem is that the money doesn't follow. It doesn't agree with that, right? Because when you're whatever company that depends a lot on advertisement dollars, I mean, it is what it is. If you having this person endangers your ability to have the money to continue to have the platform, you're gonna have to make the hard choice. And it's like, well, I mean, that's it. If I'm not mistaken, what's one of those like pro speech ish platforms? Rumble's starting to have that issue where like they're starting to get into a financial crunch, and they were of all the platforms, they're the ones that were really trying to be free speech. Kick 2 was trying to be free speech, but then they started clamping that down. That's why, what's his name? What's that white supremacist guy? Oh my gosh, what is his name? Used to be known to Destiny. hangs out with the fresh and fit people. I can't remember his name, right? Used to be with Kanye West too, right? He was on that he was with Kanye on that the Sandy Hook guy. Bro, why can't I remember none of these names right now? Right? Alex Jones, right? What is that other guy's name? Right? There was another guy. I don't remember it. But like, you know, he came on that platform and he was on there for a good bit. But then once like once the guy started really spreading like that crazy stuff, they kick him off. And it is what it is. Cause like I said, when you start hurting the money, free speech goes out the window. So I don't know why they keep trying to like present this fake image. Nobody believes in free speech. They just don't. None of these people believe in free speech.
They speak for him.
I mean, he made the point at the end there that any company, any private company, when it comes to free speech, is not compelled to pay people to work for them. I mean, would you accept that as a principle?
Well, what I would say again is that it just kind of runs into what is wrong. I guess the question you could ask is, what is wrong if CNN fires somebody for having a different opinion? What then is wrong if Fox News fires somebody for having a different opinion? Your answer would have to be that it's not wrong and that companies are at will to curate whatever belief system that they want and to not allow free speech. So, you know.
Out of interest, is it true that you signed an NDA? That's why you can't really talk about this in detail.
I cannot speak in detail about any of that stuff.
You can't even confirm whether you've had an NDA.
I am not free to.
Oh, the Alex Jones trial? Oh, that shit, that was crazy. Oh my God. That thing where, God, what was that? I think my favorite part of that was just the part where he was trying to make it seem like he was like crazy or he was on some drugs or something. Like there was an actual part of that trial where Alex Jones out his mouth was basically saying that the things he say cannot be taken seriously because he, you know, suffers, either he potentially suffers or he had these things going on. So it's never supposed to be taken seriously ever, was what he was trying to argue. Even though he stresses it all the time, how much you should take the things he says seriously on the actual platform. It was just crazy. The crazy thing is he was right. What was he right about specifically? I'm kind of curious what your cause shoot, man, we can. Let me see here. I forgot I'm using Firefox, so still getting used to Firefox here. Firefox is such a cool browser. I might have to use this more often. Alex Jones. Spelled Jones wrong there. Offer to settle Alex Jones. Wait, they're gonna settle? No, this is 2023. Wait, what are they gonna settle? For a minimum of 85 million. Families offer to settle for 85 million. That's still a hell of a lot of money. If you're saying he was right about the Sandy Hook thing, I didn't watch the trial in full detail. His opinion, it was a psyops orchestrated by the government. I didn't go into like deep detail of the trial, but I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, I guess the question would be like the exact nature of the psyops. I mean, my understanding is just that like he was saying that the shooting was fake. It never happened. What other claim it was? And whatever like other stuff that basically was like this is all like just make believe. Then you know like you know you can't. I'm not even with sending the video, but like I mean like you know death certificates and stuff like that, and then police investigations and all that other stuff. I mean, the thing is that if you want to take it, you want to take the stand. It was fake if you research it. Okay. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Can I get the actual? Let me see. What do I want to do here? Alex Jones trial documents, right? Plaintiffs. Yeah, here we go. Plaintiffs. How many pages is this? Let's see here. Official release date that appears near the beginning of this opinion is the date the opinion was released as a slip opinion. Blah, blah, blah. How many pages is this? Oh, it's only 36 pages. That's not too bad. I am not going to read all 36 quite at this exact moment, but I will give it a read. But what I'm just curious and seeing is I want to see here presents the opportunity to consider the scope. Hold on. Record reveals the following. Here we go. Relevant facts. So, because whenever I read court documents, I always go to like the actual presented facts, and then if there's ever any question about them, then that's when I'll sit there and I'll try to like then go through the rest of the case. But because remember, this is a court case, right? So obviously, like anything that like they're not going to have anything in there that couldn't be disproven, right? So like unless you're gonna, it's like I'm trying to find a good example for this one. I tell you what. There was a dude named Wolfgang Habit, and I think he won his trial. Wolfgang Habit. Because when it comes to the I'm gonna grab that name. When it comes to the facts, if you think back, I don't know if you noticed, but like the documents case, right, for Trump, for example, for the classified documents, the federal government had a part in there where I mean, they had convincing stuff that showed that they had a recording of him showing these classified documents to somebody, and I think the guy might have even mentioned it too. But the problem is because they can't prove it, they don't have anything. Because even if you can prove that he showed documents to the guy, like you have to prove that the document he was showing was actually real. That's impossible. You're not gonna do that, and so that's why the judge, it was either today or yesterday. She had that taken out because she was like, there's no, you're not going to you have no evidence to be able to prove that he did this, even though, let's say, there's a video thing of him talking to the guy, be like, hey, I could have declassified this, I didn't, or whatever, right? At the end of the day, if you can't prove it with something actual hard evidence, i.e. like something to show that this was the actual specific document, and then he showed this specific document, then unfortunately there's nothing you can do about it. That's when you start needing a lawyer, right? Because when you start getting to those creative things where like even though this stuff kind of does show like with OJ Simpson, the glove don't fit, right? Even though you probably killed him, if you don't have that evidence, you have that 100% provable evidence, right? Where like this glove could have been worn by somebody else. It's not that I could fit my hand, squeeze. It could have been worn by somebody else. It has to go away. You got to take it out. That's how these court things work. So like the fact stuff, usually the fact stuff, these I know were vetted in this trial because his attorneys would have been on that, and the judge would have had had it kicked out. You can't introduce something that you have no evidence for. Let's see. The records reveal the following relevant facts. What is it? I think it's standing. Standing to show proof that you were harmed, and you have to show something that materially shows that you was potentially harmed. I think that's what it's called. Record to reveal the following relevant facts and procedural history. And then while I'm doing that, can I paste this name? Wolf guy. Record, let's see, 6 staff members in the mass shooting standing in school, Newtown. Some conspiracy theorists question the circumstances surrounding the hoax. In response to statements made by Jones and individuals featured earlier, the plaintiff brought 3 separate civil actions against the defendant in 2018. The complaints alleged counts of invasion of privacy by false light, defamation, and defamation per se, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And then, wasn't there? I think I might have even seen it too. I think there was a segment on Alex Jones' podcast where I think he was like actually identifying some of these people. Like he was straight up identifying some of these people. You see, this is what'll get you in trouble right here. Okay, you can say something was a hoax, sure. Right? You can sit there and you can say like, oh, they're probably lying about this or whatnot, right? It's not until you start doing something that directly links to direct harm of a specific person to where it becomes a problem. That's usually where you'll get caught up in a civil lawsuit, right? If you say something that can be directly linked to some type of harm to the other person, that is the key for a civil lawsuit to take place. This is why, you got defamation. This is why when Fox News said that, was having all these people that kept saying that, the voting machines was rigged and stuff, right? Why Fox News? Because if Fox News was telling the truth and they wouldn't have to worry about it, right? They could have just went to court, but they settled for a hell of a lot of money outside of court because the evidence was just too overwhelming that they were lying. And so that is how you get caught up in these civil suits. So I think so it sounds like to me like this specifically, this wasn't so much as just about the whether the shooting happened or not. He might have actually said something. I do believe he said something that was like of direct harm to these individual people, and then that's what the problem was. Complaints claim violations of the Connecticut Unfair Trade Practices Act, general statutes, blah blah blah. November 2018, defendant filed special motion to dismiss the plaintiff's complaint pursuant to anti-SLAPP law. Yep. In order to respond to the special motions to dismiss the plaintiffs moved for limited discovery. Plaintiffs argued that they had demonstrated good cause to entitle them to specific. Yep. Oh yeah, the anti-SLAPP. Anti-SLAPP is very specific to these types of claims, right? Because typically, if somebody says something you don't like, then you can sue them. And then that's when anti-SLAPP comes into play, because anti-SLAPP makes you stop. It makes it that if you don't have anything real, then you're just doing this to try to shut the other person up. And so then they'll throw the case out. Makes sense. I think he just named the people. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, bro, like I'm telling you, you will save yourself so much trouble by the love of God. Do not do anything or say anything that can be proven to have put somebody's life in danger, their money in danger, right? If I said everybody needs to show up at such and such's house, you know what? I don't know if you was paying attention to the Kendrick Drake beef thing, for example. Let me here's a perfect it would help if you know this, but if for anybody else that might be stopping by that might be familiar with the Kendrick Drake beef, it goes like this, right? If Kendrick kept sitting there and saying that Drake was doing all these peddler activities, right? I call it peddler, right? Instead of the peddler, right? And then he uses Drake's actual house, because for an album cover or a song cover for one of those songs, he used Drake's actual house, which was actually had like I think the street name or whatever it was, right? And then he had fake sex offender pins all on over the house, right? He did that, kept saying this man is a peddler doing all this stuff, right? And then you got all this information coming out, and then later on Drake's house got shot up. I think it might have been like a week or two later or something like that. I promise you, like the beef stopped right at that moment for Kendrick's side, because if he had somebody smart, potentially a lawyer, I would like to hope, on his side, he would have told him that, look, right, you wasn't the direct reason why this man's house just got shot up, but let me just explain to you what's just happened, right? You've been saying this man was a peddler, right? You've been saying all these things, and you're getting all these people that's vibing to your music saying that he's a peddler. You showed his man's house, the actual location where he lives, with sex offender pins everywhere, and then reiterating that he's a peddler. Then somebody comes and shoot up his house, right? If at any point in time they find this person and it turns out that he was listening to your music or believed in the things you said and then went and did these things, right? I'm not saying that he has a strong case, but he has a pretty good case to take you to court if you don't stop this ish right now. And then the beef ends, right? That's how it is. If you the pizzeria, I don't know if you remember the conspiracy of the Washington pizzeria that was skinning children, right? And then somebody actually eventually went up in that pizzeria to try and find these children. Like, bro, like I'm telling you, if you spread anything that materializes in some way that harms other people, right, you can be sued. And the one danger, yeah, the Pizzagate. And the one danger, I don't think people understand. The one danger about civil suits like that is that those can't be you can't, there's no relief from them, right? Like, it's not like you get a loan, right? You buy a house and you can't pay your loan no more, so you file for bankruptcy. You got credit cards, you file for bankruptcy, right? You try to start a business, and then business goes to shit. You file for bankruptcy, right? Like all of that. You got your like your oh shit kind of thing to get out of those things, right? It's gonna follow you for like 10 years, but at least you got out of it. Civil suits, those can't be my understanding, I could be wrong on this, right? I could be wrong on this. My understanding, based off of like how the law is written and whatnot, bankruptcies cannot push off any liabilities you owe when it comes to civil suits. So if somebody sues you in court and they sue you for $1 billion, and you try to you can't pay this, right? And you file for bankruptcy because you can't pay it. The government, there's always the government always got some crazy ish that they got going on. I will say this too though, that what state was Sandy Hook in? Let me duplicate this tab real quick. What state was Sandy Hook in? My thing is, it's just that a lot of the stuff usually, Connecticut, Sandy Hook shooting. What state are we? Do they have the? Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Nice. They show me what was usually the best way to actually find it. Bro, what state is it? Oh, so it is. I think that is Connecticut, right? Yeah, I believe that should be Connecticut. Yeah, right next to New York, right? Yeah, Connecticut. I don't remember if Connecticut was right leaning, but sometimes too it be more of the states that be just having some crazy shady stuff going on. Florida Times. Why